Are streaming now. Should be good now. Welcome everybody to Down the Middle. I'm going to throw the floor over to Brian real quick to get us started.
Um, so after last live stream, we talked about Ben and being in a hospital. Well, for about a week, week and a half, things were still going up and down, up and down. He was good, then he's bad, then he's good, then he's bad. And then it all boiled down to that they wanted to get his lungs well enough so they can send him down so he get some CAT scans on his heart. Well, we had to wait for a few days on that one. He was still up and down, up and down, up and down. Then they finally got back with us. I don't know. Easter was Sunday, so just a few days before Easter. And they basically said that there was nothing else that we could do. They tried everything, had all the best doctors they could in, and they really done Benji real good on everything. And basically, there's nothing else that we could do. So Monday, was it Monday? It was Tuesday, just this past Tuesday, at 12:19, we went ahead and took him off the ventilator. And he's no longer with us now. So me and I'm sure Jake would like to do a little moment of silence, so would everybody else, to remember Ben and everything he's done. All right.
Excellent. Yeah.
Gotta stop that one.
Yeah, it's just sucks. It sucks for so many reasons. Because like if you knew, it seems like everybody knew Benji. Like he knew everybody.
It's true. There's people. He did, and like I would go through drive-throughs and stuff within this past couple of days, or go to the gas station and do something, and they'd come up to me and be like, "Aren't you Ben's family?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I literally grew up with Benji, like making the boards with him. We went through all these family pictures, and it was literally baby pictures of me and him together, like always together." And it just I'm so sad and aggravated. It makes me mad because I wish we would have caught it sooner.
Yeah, but I mean, how many times does that happen? It just sucks. But that being said, and we talked a little bit about it, you and I did, but I went through it a lot in my head because like the podcast was not my first thought, but when he was still in the hospital, you kind of had to think. It's like, well, okay, do we what do we do? Do we end it, or like what do we do? But I know Benji, and he would have, if I end this, he will haunt my ass. He would be so mad if I ended it. But, and we talked right before we went on air, and it was funny because you and I were on the exact same page. For those of you that follow this channel and then the other channel, the Average Intelligence Podcast, you know all about the All Events Welcome Championship. And you know that Ben was not only the current champion, but he was also the longest reigning and only 3-time champion. And I believe that it is only fitting that we officially retire the All Events Welcome Championship, and Ben will forever be the last reigning and defending All Events Welcome champion.
I completely agree on that one. And what's even more funny is before all this happened, I was supposed to be the person to face him next for it.
Yeah, but it's not funny, but one of the it sounds silly, but honestly, like that belt meant a lot to Benji. He was very proud of it,
Yeah.
and and
He
we
took
are. It was a
everything.
yeah, and it was a massive joke. We were just having fun, but he took it seriously, and
Took everything serious.
he did, but not in a bad way,
No.
you know. And
He was always good hearted to everybody.
yeah, well, and that's just it too, because I was gonna touch on this. I'll touch on it now, but it's like, you know, it seems like everybody knew him. I've never met anybody that had anything bad to say about him, and that's the gospel truth. Like, I'm not
And
just
I
saying that to
completely
be,
agree. I've known
yeah.
him
I'm
all
not
my
saying
life, and
that.
I've never anything bad about him.
No, and I'm not saying that just to be nice. Like, I've never met anybody who said anything bad about him. Everybody's just like, "Oh, you know Ben? Ben's the nicest guy." So with that said, and that retired, and for those of you that liked those antics, worry not. As I just told Brian, there's a new championship belt that's going to be making its debut in the somewhat near future. But it is by no means. We were going to get a new belt anyway, but I wanted I wanted to retire the All Events Welcome title after Ben passed, because I can't. It just doesn't seem right to continue with that, you know. So we're gonna get a new championship, new antics. That's gonna be coming in the somewhat near future. And then also, for those of you, and Brian, this is me telling you about this too. And if you'd like to join us on Tuesday night on the Average Intelligence podcast, Eric and I are going to be doing the Benji Kaufman Memorial podcast. It's going to be just us, you know, reminiscing, talking about him, that kind of stuff. But if
Tuesday
you would,
night at
I believe I gotta check with Eric. I gotta check with Eric, but I will send you a message.
yeah, definitely let me know on that one.
I will.
I do
I'll
work
let you
that
know.
night, but if then I'll do it.
Okay, well, we'll message off air for that one, because I'd like for you to be on there with us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Well, that being said, Ben would have been really mad at us for not talking about wrestling yet. So, and
Yeah.
full disclosure, I assume this has been the same for you. I not watched a ton of wrestling for the past couple of weeks. I only watched Dynamite just today, so I know.
Honestly, I haven't either since WrestleMania. I've been just so busy with Benji, and it's just I've watched little things here and there. I've heard little things here and there. I haven't really been in it the past couple weeks.
Yeah, it's like I know what's been going on, but I couldn't go into a lot of detail. So for that reason, we are doing something that's a little bit not so much current events. Is we're having a little bitch session about which is yeah, which is actually appropriate considering what mostly WWE has been doing, but really everybody's guilty of this. We're going over all those times, well, not all those times because it happens way too often, but some of our more infamous times when a wrestler has excuse me, had a name change or gimmick change and it just destroyed any chance they had at being a success. And my first bitch session would be the death of Pete Dunne and the birth of Butch.
I have that on my list too. That's what I had on there to talk about.
Oh, how could you not? Like, I read that and I'm like, well, he's fucking done. It's bad enough. Bad enough. He was one of their more talented guys, and you never saw him. And then they named him Butch and made him a lackey for Sheamus and that other fuckwad.
I don't remember his name. I don't remember his name.
Exactly. I don't know. I'm
Shit,
like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, well, when I seen that, see, it makes sense him being part of the group.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. It's the name change. It's the little. Like, what's the point? He's already established as Pete Dunne. I mean, why change the Butch? Like, there's no going back now.
Well, actually, they could. They could. They can. I mean, it'd be real easy to walk back from. Just be like, yeah, you know, I thought I liked the nickname, but the fans have let me know that they love me for who I am. So I'm going to keep using Pete Dunne. It's easy. Or do what?
I like the voice impression too. That was a good one. That was a good little touch to it.
I try. I kind of started to lapse into Australian there for a second, but I like to think I got it back, but a little bit. But or you can just do WWE style and not mention it at all, and then just start just calling him Pete Dunne again. Because do you remember when they changed? Okay, when War Machine came to NXT, they were the War Raiders, and then
War Raiders,
and then they changed their name to the Viking Experience.
What's funny is about that one. Not to cut you off, is I was at NXT Takeover New Orleans, and when they showed up, they cheered and then they booed when they noticed it was not War Machine. It was so crazy because it was such a great moment, and then it's such a bad moment at the same time. And then I was there at Monday night after Raw when they had a different name too.
Yeah, because they changed it twice. They changed it to the Viking Experience. Or, well, they ended up becoming the Viking Raiders, which was okay. But I just remember thinking, the Viking Experience? It's not a fucking ride at Disney World. Do what?
It was Viking Express also.
That's right, it was, wasn't it? And I'm just like, you guys aren't getting any better here.
And then the Viking Raiders, I can live with that. I can live with that one. It's not War Machine.
I get it though, because they've always had kind of that Viking gimmick. So Viking Raider, and it makes sense. Like, that's okay. But the fact that somebody with a straight face was like, well, why not the Viking Experience?
It was probably Bruce Pritchard.
Probably. Because, you know, it's an experience. And they're Vikings. So it's the
Viking Express.
The kids will love it.
It's like a choo-choo train. I can't do it.
Could you imagine if they had renamed A-Train to just Train? I mean, they did him dirty.
Why could I see that though? And then speaking of A-Train, what about when he came back as Tensai?
Yeah, we don't talk about Tensai.
Well, and then you put him in a dress and have him dance with Brodus Clay.
Yeah, we don't talk about Tensai. Oh God, that was painful to watch. I mean, Brodus Clay was bad enough, but
wow. Now, what about when Chavo came back as Kerwin White?
I do not believe I was watching wrestling at that time.
See, he came back for a short period as Kerwin White. He looked like he came dressed to go golfing. He seemed like he was a golfer.
I think I've seen that, but I didn't know it had a name change. What?
Yes,
Okay.
it was Kerwin White was his name, and I think he went as Kerwin White for I don't know, maybe a couple months, and then he left, and then he finally. I think that's when he left WWE for a while, and then came back.
Yeah, that was. I could have told you that was going to be bad. Has there been any? I'm trying to think because, of course, and when I'm trying to think of a specific example, I usually have like brain fog. But I'm trying to think if AEW has pulled any of these, but I don't really think so.
Not not yet.
That there have been some gimmick changes though. Maybe not name changes, but well, oh, no, no, I don't want to get into gimmick changes that worked because I was going to bring up Wheeler Yuta, but this is a bitch session. I'm not praising people on this one.
I don't think so in AEW. Now don't get me wrong. I personally haven't watched much of AEW, but I don't think so to my knowledge.
Well, okay, so there have been some gimmick changes that have fallen flat. For example, pretty much anything that Cody Rhodes did. He just, and I feel for him. He just could not get. And I will say this: there is a large segment of the AEW fan base that claims to like professional wrestling, but they don't. They don't know. They don't. They like. I'm going to channel my inner Jim Cornette here. They like the indie-rific, stupid shit. Now, like, I'm not dogging on indie wrestling, but if you're a wrestling fan, you know what I'm talking about. The indie-rific, stupid shit.
Orange Cassidy?
So, Orange Cassidy works, and I can explain why. Because I will admit, the first time I saw Orange Cassidy, okay, so this would piss Ben off so much, but like I'll say it, I don't, I have to because I have a point to make, and like I'm not dogging on him, but I'll be honest, I don't get Danhausen, I don't get it.
You'd say it. He's rolling around right now.
Yeah, I know. I used to piss him off, but I think I've gone into this before, but here's why Orange Cassidy works when he's done right. Now here lately, they've not really been doing it right. But Orange Cassidy works because his gimmick is that he doesn't try. But if he does try, he's super good. If he takes a match seriously, he's very, very good. Danhausen is silly all the time.
Okay, you make good points on that one. I can agree on that.
It's kind of like it would be really hard to take Undertaker seriously if he couldn't wrestle. But he can wrestle.
Yeah.
So we kind of he owns the character, and the character, as fantastical as it sounds, it makes sense in a way. And you got to a point where it's just so iconic that, I mean, Undertaker can pretty well do no wrong, but
I can definitely agree on that one. Speaking of Cody, I liked it, but I've heard not a lot of people not really like it, and I think it's just kind of funny. What about Cody when he went to Stardust?
I was just going to bring that up. I thought that was, I thought it was stupid. Like, there's really no way you can slice it. Goldust worked because it had history. Like, they did it in the Attitude Era. And okay, here's why Goldust works and Stardust doesn't. Goldust is just a weird fucker who likes to dress funny and act weird. He's not but Stardust is an alien comic book villain that is somehow brothers with this weird transsexual guy who's not really a transsexual guy anymore. Now he's just Dustin Rhodes dressed in a gold jumpsuit with gold and black face paint going all the time. So
Okay.
we're supposed to believe that these two are brothers, but one of them's an alien from another dimension at the same time. It's like we all know he's Dusty Rhodes' kid, but we're supposed to all make pretend that he's this alien thing. And he owned it. He did as good of a job as he possibly could with something so preposterously stupid. But it just, and this is a hilarious thing to say in the wacky world of pro wrestling, but it made no sense. It made absolutely no sense.
And what's messed up is when he debuted the Stardust character, him and his brother were just tag team, and him as Cody.
Yes, that's when it made sense. It's just like, oh, he's Goldust and Stardust. That's cool. And then they started doing the cosmic key bullshit and the weird fucking extra dimensional nonsense. Like it was doomed from the start once they brought that element in.
I didn't understand why.
Because
I didn't understand.
It seems to me, and I'm going to put my amateur therapist hat on here. It seems to me that Vince McMahon has a really, really deep-seated hatred for Dusty Rhodes. Or not hatred. I shouldn't say hatred. Resentment, maybe? Like he's got a score.
Yeah,
that he feels like it's how you explain the polka dot thing. The polka dot thing. Like that was supposed to make Dusty look stupid. It's just that Dusty was so goddamn good that he got it over.
Yeah. And it worked.
Because Dusty was so damn good. And then don't tell me for a second that how is Goldust not supposed to embarrass Dustin Rhodes? But again, Dustin Rhodes is so goddamn good that he got it over. And I think Cody could get Stardust over if they hadn't taken it to such a stupid place.
Yeah.
Oh, not even a stupid place.
If they would have built it like they built Goldust as a semi-comical character instead of like a stupid cartoon comic book character, I think he could have got it over that way too.
That gimmick could work with somebody else who is a solo act and was introduced as that character.
Yeah.
But not only did you start out with a tag team writing off of somebody else's gimmick, kind of, the two were actually brothers and they were sons of one of the greatest, most famous pro wrestlers in history. And we're expected to believe that this dude's some weird extra dimensional alien who's looking for a cosmic key and has a score to settle with Stephen Amell.
I don't understand it.
So yeah,
got another good one for you.
Okay, hit me.
What about One Man Gang when he came out as Akeem, the Dream? I love the One Man Gang character. I loved it. Back as Akeem and he started dancing as an Egyptian, and I'm like, why?
Oh man.
Why?
Let's see, what's another? So this one wasn't a gimmick change, but something happened, and this one actually pissed me off. It kind of offended me a little bit. So you remember the tag team, the Ascension from the NXT days?
Yeah, I remember them.
How badass they were. Their entrance was badass. They were badasses in the ring. They debut on Raw, and they have the same entrance, but with different camera angles and lighting, and it just took it all away.
Yep.
I knew right then and there. Yeah, me too. Yeah,
it's
but
just, man.
When I watched their first entrance on Raw when they debuted, I knew right then and there, oh, these guys are done. they're fucked. If they're lucky, they'll get sent back to NXT.
And it's always the little things that changes. It doesn't work.
It's all okay. So here's my this is why I'll tell you one of the main reasons why NXT was so much better than the current WWE main roster. And here's, you touched on it, the little things. There were differences. Everybody's entrance and the main roster, let's be real, other than some slight variations in music, even the typesets are the same and their names on the Titantron now. Like, it all looks relatively the same. Like, everybody's entrance is kind of the same.
Here's what gets me the most going to the NXT and then coming up to the main roster thing. If you are building a character, a gimmick, a wrestler in general as NXT, as a wrestling fan, you're probably going to watch Raw or SmackDown too. So why carry them from NXT to the main roster just to change them up?
I think honestly, because and this is kind of, I'm not going to say our fault, but we have a little bit of a preconceived notion because we watched NXT and the main roster. But if you look at viewership, the main roster gets more viewership than, particularly SmackDown, than NXT. There are people who watch Raw and SmackDown that have no idea what's going on in NXT, especially when it was only on the network. So,
yeah,
but what WWE was doing that was so stupid is NXT was their proving ground, because the NXT fans were going to watch NXT regardless, but they told you whether or not something was working. And this is why it was so ingenious, because since it was on the network, you had hardcore fans only watching it. So they were going to watch it no matter what. But if something wasn't working, you had a chance to retool it, repackage it, and they did several times. Something wasn't working for somebody, they'd change the gimmick, maybe do a name change. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but, well, Tyler Breeze. Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. You know, they figured it out. Michael what?
Was it Michael McGill? Couldn't remember what it was. I think it was Michael McGillicuddy or something like that. And then he's Bray Wyatt.
Oh no!
And it's just
Bray
McGillicuddy was
Curtis Axel.
Mr. Perfect. Yeah, Curtis Axel. My bad.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt was Husky Harris.
Yep, Husky Harris. That's what it was. And I'm like, if you rebrand it on NXT and change it up there, and then bring them to the main roster as it, that's fine. But like, when you're going to take them from NXT straight to the main roster and then change their name or change their gimmick, it's, why bother? Why would you, like, there's no point in it.
Yeah, after you've spent a year or two building it up, it just made no sense. And the other part of it too is NXT, like, everybody knew NXT was their developmental. So I mean, the audience would have been more forgiving, but frankly, the wrestling was 10 times better on that show than their main roster.
Yep.
I mean, everything was just better, but everybody's entrance wasn't the exact same thing, and they would play with different camera angles, and they would, you know, light it differently, and everything had kind of just a different feel to it. Like, they basically, I equated it to WWE made their own Ring of Honor.
Yeah, in a way, yes. I got somebody that's recent.
Hit me.
And they're kind of trending right now, and it's pissing people off. Elias going to Ezekiel.
God. That's going to be a fucking disaster.
No, never mind. That's not Elias. That's Elias's brother. Sorry about that one.
You know, something I always used to do that pissed Ben off, but I'm just a stickler for accuracy, is he would always get El Generico and Sami Zayn confused as though they were the same person. And I had to remind him that, you know, El Generico disappeared when Sami Zayn arrived in WWE, seemingly from nowhere.
Now, this is something I could see Vince doing in this day and age. Sami Zayn disappearing and him showing up on NXT as El Generico.
No, Vince wouldn't do that because it's too good of a fucking idea.
It's such. Go on.
I got one for you. How about Sami Zayn disappears, right? And then they advertise at some NXT takeover El Generico versus Juan Cena.
God damn it! Don't you?
I liked Juan Cena.
What's messed up about the whole Sami Zayn thing, and it's kind of a little off topic, but it's not. So, I play the WWE 2K game, the 2K22, and in my rise, at one point, Sami Zayn has a friend that is a masked character, and he says it's not him, and it shows it's not him, but eventually it turns out it's Sami Zayn.
Interesting. I feel like that's just an Easter egg for the hardcore fans.
Probably. What about Devon Dudley when he went to Reverend Dudley? Or Reverend Devon?
You know, I read, or I can't remember if I read it or I saw a video where Devon was talking about that, and he said it was the coolest thing ever because he'd go around with the collection box and people would actually give him money.
Really?
Yeah, that's and he'd just be like, and he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm keeping it."
I wouldn't blame him. Like, he didn't even do anything as Reverend Devon. He was what was it? They paired him up with Batista when he came over to WWE.
Yeah.
And that's about all I remember him doing as Reverend Devon.
Well, and you know, this is one of the few times that I will. Well, I disagree with Jim Cornette more than a few times, but it is kind of funny. Somebody who constantly shits on other people for gimmicks and whatnot, but he was the brainchild of the Leviathan in OVW.
Oh, the Leviathan.
I'm kind of like, really, Jim? Okay. Never mind the fact you got a guy who is like a legit bodybuilder. You know, it was funny because it should have happened in reverse. You know, if Batista came to WWE today as a younger man, he would have come in as Dave Batista. They would have changed his name to something fucking stupid like, it would have been like Dave Battleaxe. Then they would have just changed his name to Battleaxe, and then they would have just made him the Leviathan.
It's funny because it's true.
I know. That's why it's hilarious. So that brings up another, and this isn't always the case, but WWE has been jumping on the bandwagon of, and I've bitched about this before, is giving people single names. Now, sometimes it works. Sometimes it works. The aforementioned Batista. But in that case, I think it kind of worked because A, he was such a badass. And like, there's a lot of people who hate on Batista, but let's be real. He was a fucking badass. And if you don't think so, then fuck you. That it worked. It's kind of like how The Rock got away with being The Rock.
Yeah, after he was Rocky Maivia.
Yeah, but I mean, like, think about it. Like, on the surface, The Rock is such a stupid name. But he owned it, started talking about himself in the third person as The Rock, and he got it over. And then you've got...
It's just like Triple H. Why?
It's just a nickname that stuck.
And it worked.
Yeah, it totally worked.
But what about, and it works with him now. What about Matt Riddle when they changed it to just Riddle?
See, I hate that. I hate that with a fucking passion.
Or I got another one. I'll wait and let you finish.
Well, so the reason Matt Riddle specifically annoys me is because his name is actually Matt Riddle, and his name has value because he came from MMA.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did they turn him into I would say a stoner, but they're also treating him like he's 6. So he's just a dumb kid now who rides a fucking scooter. And not to get off topic, but there was this hilarious botch. It's not really a botch per se, but there's this hilarious video that I saw where I guess he and Bobby Lashley did a backstage segment, and Bobby, because Riddle's always barefoot, and Bobby was supposed to stomp on his foot, but the camera pans down exactly when Bobby does the stomp, and he's like 6 inches away from Riddle's foot. Like, the camera wasn't supposed to pan down, right?
Yeah.
But the fucking idiot behind the camera is like, oh, he's actually going to step on his foot. I'm going to get it on camera. Bobby stomps the floor, and Riddle's selling it, and he looks like a fucking idiot because you saw that Bobby was nowhere close to his foot. And he's sitting there writhing in agony on the ground, and I'm just like, God damn it. And see, this is the true tragedy, because I think Riddle is smart enough to know if he'd caught that, he would have been smart enough to turn it and be like, yo, Bobby, like, what are you trying to step on my foot for, bro? Just be like, that's not very nice, man. You know, and just walk off and, like, salvage it to a certain extent. But if he had done that, Vince would have had his ass.
Probably. More than likely, yes.
And that's a problem, because there have been several times in other promotions, AEW, for example, where I've seen things go not quite according to plan in the ring, and it's obvious, but people recover and they make the best of it. Like Christopher Daniels, when he did that, I can't remember what he was trying to do, but he flopped, he missed the rope, and he ended up falling on his ass. They turned it into a thing. They turned it into an angle. They turned a mistake, a legitimate, just like happens to the best of us fuck up, and then they go into an angle where he's like, I just don't think I have it anymore.
Here's another one. And they changed the name a few times. What about Chad Gable to Shorty G to just now Gable?
Well, Gable's better than Shorty G, but what was wrong with Chad Gable? Most people have a first and last name, Vince. I'm just going to start calling him McMahon, see how he likes it. Case in point, Vince, I'm going to start calling him McMahon. He's like, which one? Exactly, motherfucker. Which one? There's a fucking cornucopia of you. That's right, McMahon. But the one name, and this one I saw this and I'm like, God, this is so stupid. Theory.
Oh, God.
I don't know if he's the only one who's ever done this, but I heard Chris Jericho say it, is that there's a world champion name test. And what you do is you say, ladies and gentlemen, introducing your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, insert name here. And if it sounds stupid, you're probably never going to be world champion.
I could see that. I could see that being the case on that one.
So I'm gonna go through an exercise real quick.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Theory. That sounds a little fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Now, if you insert his first name back into it, it doesn't sound so stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, your new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Austin Theory.
It all boils down to the little things that they change.
Right. And again, because World Heavyweight Champion Batista somehow works. Like, could you imagine if Jericho had stayed in WWE? He would just be Jericho now. That's right. At WrestleMania, we've got Jericho versus Riddle. With special guest enforcer, the Batman. It's gonna be such good shit. And special guest commentator, the Gobbledygook.
A special guest ring announcer, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Just Savage.
Just
Savage now. Just Savage. Oh yeah, brother. Just Savage. Just Hogan.
Just Hogan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andre versus Hogan. Like, wow. I'm sorry, but most of the time when you say these names out loud, you instantly know whether or not it's a stinger.
Most times it's a stinker.
Well,
and
like,
somehow they still try to push it.
Well, like, you're not going to drop Randy Orton's first name and just call him Orton. That'd be fucking stupid.
Oh, goodness.
Maybe they're going to drop Cody's name and just call him Rhodes.
You just can't take Ricky out of Steamboat.
At least they didn't name him Steamboat Ricky.
Steamboat Ricky.
Have him come out going, whoop, whoop. They'd do it today. And Jimmy Snuka would have just been Superfly.
Oh, goodness. Just the names that goes through my head right now. Just looking around my room. People name him. It's not Kurt Angle anymore. It's just Angle.
There you go. Yeah. And they'd change the name. It's not
Bret Hart anymore. It's The Hart. Or Hitman. It's just Hitman.
Well, no, they'd call him Hart and they'd be like, which one? It doesn't matter which one. They're all the same. They all dress the same. They all do the same shit.
So Jeff Hardy's just Hardy now. Just Hardy. Which one?
Well, Matt's in AEW, so
they're both in AEW.
Well, yeah, now they are. That's right. Although there's a rumor that Jeff wants WWE to buy the contract out, but I don't think that's true.
Ooh, I've not heard that one yet.
It's very much a rumor, and I haven't seen it from any credible source. I mean, and see, that wouldn't make sense anyways, because like right after the stuff that happened with Jeff Hardy, WWE wanted him to come back with a new contract and put him in the Hall of Fame. So that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, none whatsoever. Oh, what are some other? It seems like we're picking on WWE, but I just really can't. I'm trying to think if there was an instance in like New Japan where they changed somebody's gimmick and it just flopped. I'm sure it's happened before, but I just can't think of one. Not very familiar with New Japan. Let's think. Well, okay. What about WCW? Here's an instant. When Goldust was in WWF, and then he went to WCW, and he was I can't remember his name. He had the all-white face. It was Seven. He had a full black Seven, yes. He had a full black trench coat and a black hat. Well, he even wasn't having that shit. Oh, he told everybody when he came out to the ring. Yeah, he told them where they could shove it. I'm really trying to think of a new, and I know it's had to have happened. I just can't think of one off the top of my head. I mean, maybe, but it ended up working. I was gonna say when Evil joined Bullet Club and left Los Ingobernables, like I remember I was like, oh no, but I mean they've made it work, so I can't really think of one. It's just WWE is so bad about it all the time. It's hard not to pick on them.
Here's one, and it's still picking on WWE.
How can we not?
What about how about 1-2-3 Kid with X-Pac and Six?
Well, Six was when he came to WCW.
Well, yeah, but still, even at that, he was X-Pac, and he was 1-2-3 Kid. Then he was Six, and then it was X-Pac.
Yeah, but I think X-Pac was an improvement though over the 1-2-3 Kid.
It wasn't a. Okay, that was.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're supposed to be bitching. We can definitely.
Oh, we're bitching.
Yeah, we can definitely do another episode where gimmick changes worked. But
that's a good one.
There's gotta be one in AEW. There's gotta be.
It's gotta be AEW.
There's gotta be. I'm racking my brain, but there. I mean, like I said,
I'm just trying to think.
Oh well, this isn't really AEW's fault because she was booking it, but basically, anything Brandy did, like the Nightmare Collective was a thing for a bit, and I remember looking at that, I'm like, wow, that's dumb, because your husband's a fucking babyface, and he's got the Nightmare Factory and the Nightmare Family. But you've got the Nightmare Collective, and you're like this weird supernatural heel thing going on. It just it don't work.
I don't think anything that Brandy did in AEW worked.
I mean, as a valet, I'm not completely on the Brandy Rhodes hate wagon. I'm not completely on it. This sounds super misogynistic, but I don't mean it to be. It's just Brandy works best when she is not, I don't want to say an accessory, not as like an object. I mean like as in like as an accessory to an act. Like an accessory to a crime, but in this case it's not a crime, you know what I mean? Like when she's in Cody's corner, I think that's when she's at her best.
I could agree, like almost as a manager in a way.
Oh, a valet, a valet. As a valet, that's not a knock on her because I've enjoyed the matches of hers that I've seen, but I've just always I think it's what's real. You know, like it feels real and it feels right for her to be in Cody's corner.
Yeah, it's like saying I just had a brain fart. I had him in my head. I can't even remember now.
Well, it's like nobody wanted to see Miss Elizabeth wrestle.
Yeah.
They wanted to see Miss Elizabeth cheering on Macho Man.
Or Sensational Sherry.
And anyone she worked with.
Or what is it? Was it Sunny with Goldust too?
At one point, yeah.
What was? Yeah, it's like you can only make it work some way.
Well, and I think the problem is that the role of the manager has become so negligible that very few people do it, and almost nobody does it well. And I think that Brandy honestly saw that as like a step down, and it's like, no, not really.
Because like there's in this day and age of professional wrestling, they don't really have managers anymore.
There's a few. Oh yeah, go ahead.
The people that are like either can really pull it off or can't. And like Paul Heyman, he's really the cream of the crop.
Yeah, like, Paul Heyman could teach a class.
Like more when I think of manager, Paul Heyman. He's like, if he on the Mount Rushmore of managers, then there's a problem.
Oh, he's got to be at least in the conversation. AEW is not doing a terrible job, but they're in danger of. So I love Smart Mark Sterling, but he's now involved. He's now involved. He's now involved with 3 different people, though.
And see, I don't like that. And I didn't like it when WWE with Paul Heyman either, when he was with different people. Also, it's just, if you're going to be a manager, it's either going to be the manager of a group or the manager of a singles wrestler.
Correct. Now, at least with Paul Heyman, they made a story of it, so I'll give credit for that. But Smart Mark needs to cool it. He works with Jade Cargill. That's what's working.
Yeah.
Now, his gimmick kind of allows for him to be involved with other people, but they need to do it sparingly. And I feel like I've seen Smart Mark Sterling 3 times tonight. And it's too much Smart Mark.
I could agree on that.
Who else is a manager in AEW? Well, you got Vicky Guerrero, but she's not really doing a lot. And Nyla Rose doesn't really... I go back and forth on this. Because I think if anybody's going to manage Nyla Rose, it's Vicky Guerrero. But Nyla's character doesn't... Yeah, but Nyla doesn't really need a manager, per se. Except that I prefer when she doesn't talk. And that's not a knock, that's just... the nature. She's got a monster gimmick, so when she talks, it takes me out of it. It's kind of like when Kane speaks.
Kane speaks.
Yeah. Or Undertaker speaks.
Man, I'm really trying to think of a... Man, I guess I didn't come as prepared as I would have liked.
It's no big thing. This is all it's just a conversation. That's what's fun about it. But anyway, I'm going to go back to shitting on WWE. So they really screwed the pooch on. They really screwed the pooch on this next one because they're like in no way, shape, or form have they done anything right with Walter.
Oh God!
So
and that's another name change. Why?
So it's not only his name change.
Go on.
So not only did they change his name to Gunther, which okay, let's be real. We're gonna play a different kind of name game. This is like you're in a legit fight with somebody and you don't know who your opponent is. You know nothing about him. And you see your opponent and they say your opponent is Walter. It's a little intimidating. But when they say, like, oh, by the way, you're fighting Gunther. Gunther? His name's Gunther? Okay. Even if you say the English equivalent, his name's Gunther. Ooh. But then not only did they give him a stupid, unnecessary name change, which they did after he moved to the fucking United States, after he said he wasn't going to, ever. Then so Imperium has had black trunks. I mean, as far back as I can remember.
Yeah, the whole time they've had black trunk.
Right.
The whole time they've had black trunk.
So now they have red, white, and black trunks. I feel like somebody's either really stupid or a closet Nazi and just kind of got away with it.
Closet Nazi.
Well, because like I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that it's just them being fucking stupid. But the biggest complaint I've ever had with WWE is like they don't understand the concept of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Walter didn't need fixing. Walter needed to be on television. And then they put him on television, and then they fucked it up.
I'm all about consistency. And then when you mess something up or fuck it up or change it, it's like, hey, we're hitting a stump. Why did you change it? And like you just said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Because here's the thing. They knew Walter worked. There was no reason to change it. Every time you change something, you run the risk of screwing it up. And they do almost every time.
And I watched the episode of NXT when they changed his name, and like when he said that he's not going by Walter no more, and he said he was going by Gunther, they were still cheering Walter.
And they're still going to continue chanting Walter, because nobody is swallowing this. Just like I think everybody should start chanting Austin every time Austin Theory is in the ring. It's fucking stupid. When are they going to start calling Becky Lynch just Becky? Like officially. It's going to happen.
Or the man.
Well, actually, that was pretty fucking cool. But that wasn't WWE's thing. That was them capitalizing on a freak accident. Which they used to do fairly well. So when I first started getting into wrestling back in 2006, like, there were things that would happen, and you weren't 100% sure if that was planned from the beginning or if they just saw something that worked and rode with it. Like, you weren't entirely sure, and that's what was so fun. You know, because, like, was CM Punk always going to get a push, or did they have to after they threw him in the Survivor Series match because they needed somebody from ECW, and he got a bigger pop than DX?
Point proven.
You know, like, and that's not knocking DX. DX was over as shit. But CM Punk got a bigger pop than DX and the Hardys. And I'm sure Vince was like, the fuck? I don't even know who this kid is. Oh, Vince, it's called Ring of Honor, dipshit. It's kind of a thing. And I don't like
that's Vince
just
for you.
Well, and just kind of so again, 2006, I started watching right when they started airing the vignettes for Punk's debut. I had no fucking idea. I had no idea who CM Punk was. No clue. But
I didn't know either.
Yeah, but I was immediately like, this motherfucker's cool. I don't know what it is about him.
around that same era, it was actually when SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 featuring ECW came out. I had not been watching wrestling around that time, so I did not know about CM Punk until I seen him in the game, and I fell in love with him there. That's what kind of brought me back to wrestling to watch it, was because of CM Punk.
And it's like, and then I learned who he was, and I saw some of his work in Ring of Honor, and I'm like, well, shit, no wonder this dude's over. So half the shit he did in WWE, he'd already done in Ring of Honor, and it worked. It just, he did it for a bigger audience and tweaked things here and there. But like the concept of the Summer of Punk had already been done. He was rehashing Ring of Honor shit, but he was probably able to get away with it because Vince had no fucking clue, and Punk already knew it was going to work.
Punk knew if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
100%. Hell, he had a match with Dustin Rhodes where I think like a large part of it was just him reenacting a match that Goldust has had with Bret Hart on Dynamite, and it fucking worked.
Yep. I just had seen about that.
I thought JR was going to come in his pants. Because they kept saying... Well, no, I mean, because like the announcers were so... I say the announcers, it was JR and Tony Schiavone. They were popping for that match. And they kept saying... Like, JR is actually quite entertaining on commentary for many reasons, but I'm specifically talking about this reason, is the fact that he's always like... He's kind of shitting on people, but it's when they do stupid shit. And when he sees, he's like, imagine that a crowd is into watching guys wrestle. And I am.
And what's
I'm
bad
just
about
like,
JR's too?
what's that?
As bad as it sounds, JR shits on himself too.
Yeah, but I think it's justified a lot of times because I'm trying to remember. This was on Dynamite, or maybe it wasn't this week. Maybe it was the last one I watched. I can't remember. But oh no, it was this Dynamite. Somebody did a wrist lock, and JR goes into this whole spiel about he's like, oh, wrist lock. I haven't, like, you never see that anymore. And then Tony Schiavone's legit like trying to defend the current roster. He's like, well, JR, I don't think it's that they don't know how to do it. I just think they don't use it anymore. And he's like, that's the point, but it works. It's fucking great. But we're supposed to be shitting on stuff.
Well, whatever. It's a bitch, but you know what?
Yeah. Well, fuck. I mean, the entirety of WWE ECW after. Oh, realistically, especially after December to Dismember.
I think that's where it really went downhill there because there was a lot of good matches that were still on ECW. Like Flair and Big Show, they had a few good matches. And I don't understand.
What they were doing would have worked because and I fault WWE entirely for this because I've heard Paul Heyman and I've heard Tommy Dreamer on the record as saying that, like, yeah, we had plans for ECW, but every time we would, we'd get memos from, like WWE saying, oh no, we want this person pushed, or we want to do this, or this, that, and the other. And it's like, at one point, I guess December to Dismember was Paul's like, well, fuck it. Like it's not going to work. He's been on record several times stating that before that pay-per-view, he knew it was gonna. And then Rob Van Dam having to vacate the title, I think, was the final nail in the coffin.
That's kind of our Rob Van Dam's fault though for that one.
Well, yeah. But my point is, like, yes, it was totally his fault, but I mean, at the same time, let's be real. It's like, first of all, it was weed, and second of all, as if a bunch of other motherfuckers on the roster were not on drugs.
Yeah.
Like, really, really, okay. And you're gonna fuck up 2 television programs over something that was so negligible. Like, was it stupid? Yeah, but let's be real. It's not like he got pulled over with 8 pounds of black tar heroin. He had a fucking joint.
Yeah.
And fucking, where did I want to say that happened in Michigan? I can't remember, but if it did happen in Michigan, the funny thing is, it's fucking legal now. Granted, not in the car,
honestly,
but still.
Honestly, I think it is legal now. I think it was Michigan where it happened.
I think it was, yeah, and it's fucking legal in Michigan now, so that's got to piss Rob off because that derailed his career.
It was such a good angle.
It's fucking great, and yeah, like, full disclosure, I was and still am a Rob Van Dam fan. That was so fucking cool seeing fucking Rob Van Dam with the ECW and WWE championships. It's fucking awesome. But then Vince McMahon had to win the ECW belt and take the proverbial piss on it. I'm surprised he didn't literally do it. I'm surprised he didn't get in the middle of the ECW ring, drop trowel, put the belt on the ground, and piss on it. It was like one step away from that.
He probably had been. He probably like had that zipper halfway down and was like, maybe I might do this.
I'm gonna piss all over it. And then I'm gonna make it kiss my ass.
He's going to piss.
Well, we know Vince McMahon is a fan of toilet humor.
Cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
Actually, Vince McMahon did piss on Jonathan Coastman once, remember?
He did. And Oh goodness, I remember that.
Actually, that was I'm not going to shit on Vince too much because it was kind of a funny bit because he was in the restroom and he's getting ready to he's getting ready to go and he goes, "Oh, Andre the Giant." And then,
Yep, they were in the bathroom. I remember that now.
yeah, and then Coachman runs in, "Mr. Went, ah!" I gotta admit that was pretty funny. Not gonna lie, I was entertained
He
by that.
definitely likes his. He does love his toilet jokes.
Well, let's not forget that DX poured shit on the Spirit Squad. Oh, jeez,
And they,
the Spirit Squad.
oh god, yeah, that's one major one we think about.
Oh, the only one who survived that was Dolph Ziggler.
His name is Mikey?
Nick. No, he's Nick. He was Nicky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was Nicky, not Mikey.
Nicky!
I remember when they first debuted, it was something else.
You know what though? I will say, if you're gonna have just a bunch of jobbers getting beat up all the time, male cheerleaders is as good of a big gimmick as anything. But I mean,
the sad thing is, they pushed him too.
Yep. Do you remember? Which I find this hilarious now. When they finally ended the Spirit Squad, DX put him in a box and stamped it, shipped to OVW.
Did he really?
Yeah, they did. I thought that was hilarious.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because I don't remember that.
Well, and okay, so here's an example of where that could have worked, honestly, because theoretically, since OVW television was regional, you very easily could have, like, okay, we're done with the Spirit Squad thing, send them back to OVW for a little while, let people forget about them, change their look a bit, give them different names, and send them back to the main roster, which they pretty well did with Dolph Ziggler. Because a lot of people forget that Dolph Ziggler... He was what?
I think he was the only one that did come back with a different name change.
Kenny Dykstra came back, but it just didn't work.
Okay. I did remember that one afterwards.
Yeah, which at the time, I got to give credit. I don't know if he's watching, but Joe gets credit for this one. He started calling him the Dykinator.
That's a good one.
I was like, oh shit, that's funny. But Joe really didn't like the Dykinator because Joe very, very much had a thing for Mickey James. Can't blame him. But at the time, I can't remember if they were married together or engaged, but they were an item.
Oh, I did not know that one.
So yeah, Joe had it out for the Dykinator from day one. Which we're gonna get off topic, but I have to mention this because I was told it's funny because I was thinking this. I watched Dynamite today. Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti did the promo thing, and it was funny because Sammy's kind of like, thank you to the fans who cheer for us, blah blah, but all you guys booing us, and we hear you. And I'm like, they're only booing because they're jealous that your girlfriend's hotter than theirs, or that you have a girlfriend. And then he said it.
That is true.
He said it, and I was like, oh, shit, that's hilarious. Because I'll admit it, I'm fucking jealous of Sammy Guevara. Fuck that dude. But I admit it. Actually, no, fuck that dude. I love Sammy. I think Sammy's great.
I like Sammy, but I'm tired of seeing him go for that TNT title.
He needs to go higher up somewhere, and he deserves every bit of it. But, like, if I didn't say that I was jealous that he managed to land Ty Conti, I'd be lying.
I agree with that one there.
Ty Conti is a beautiful, beautiful woman. Fuck you, Sammy.
Yeah, fuck you, Sammy. Well, I like you, Sammy, but fuck you, Sammy.
Yeah, I like you, Sammy, but fuck you. Like, come on. Anyway. Trying to think
What about? I just watched it's called. What about Ron Simmons when he was in WCW and then he debuted on WWF as a different name and a different gimmick. I can't remember.
Oh, Farouk.
Yeah, Farouk. And he had the blue helmet with the blue suit and the black pants or black tights.
I don't know. In hindsight, I didn't really mind it all that much. But again, I wasn't watching it at the time. I only learned about it through retrospect, so I can't really. I'm still trying to rack my. I gotta pick on AEW, but I just cannot think of a gimmick or name change that I thought was bad. Like, because anything I didn't like, I disliked from the start. You know, it's not that they changed it and made it worse. With the exception, I thought it was really bad for Cody to put that stipulation that he can never go for the world title, but I understand why he did it.
I don't at all understand why.
Well, and it wasn't a good decision because he wasn't the only EVP that was not trying to put himself over to such an extent. That's why Tony Khan eventually revoked not creative control, but like he took booking away from them and made it 100% him, because what they kept, all the EVPs were doing this, is they kept putting other people over, and it's like, no, but I understand what they were thinking, but the entire company was built on their star power. It's like, why you're gonna build AEW and emphasize tag team wrestling, but the tag team that everybody's there to see is not winning? Like, I get what they were doing, but that was not the time to, which is why I think I love the Young Bucks, don't get me wrong, but I think they're at their best when they're not booking themselves.
Yeah, completely agree on that one.
I think they can book other people extremely well, but when they're booking themselves, because I get what they're doing, and they don't want to look like they're being egotistical and putting themselves over all the time, but you're the fucking Young Bucks. You started the company. And I loved it when the angle was like, we're the greatest tag team in the world, and we're here to prove it, so we're inviting all the best tag teams in the world we can get, which is why they need to start their feud with FTR and do it right this time.
We're waiting on that one.
Well, this doesn't really count because I when FTR first changed their music, I didn't like it, but now it's grown on me.
Well, something I just seen about FTR, I had heard that when their contract's up, they're thinking about going back to WWE.
I've heard that, but maybe. Cody is going to be the real proving ground here because he's the first major star to go from AEW to WWE. And so far, it seems like it's working, but we've seen that before too, where for the first little while, but I don't know. It's gonna really be the proving ground to see how long they let Cody be Cody.
Yeah. Well, see, I had also heard that Moxley had talked about possibly going back too, but it had to be for a lump sum of money.
Sure. And I mean, and here's the thing, and this is part of the, I think I was getting into this earlier, but there's a part of the AEW fan base that are really, really, like, I don't want to use the word toxic, but fucking stupid. Because it's like, oh man, Mox is going to sell out and go back. Motherfucker, you would too. Don't even act like you wouldn't. The company offers you fucking $2 million a year to fucking go wrestle. Like you're not going to, really? And get worldwide exposure and be known all around the world and fucking collect a massive paycheck. Now, Mox, I can see Mox turning him down unless it's for just ridiculous money. Which that happened during the Monday Night Wars. There were people who were like, I'd never go to fucking WCW or I'd never go to the WWF and be like, we'll pay you $10 million.
Like Bret Hart. We never think we'd see Bret Hart in the ring again, a WWE ring. He showed up.
Everybody's got
showed up in a ring.
Everybody's got a number of zeros that'll make them reconsider. Mine's a lot lower than some other people's.
You give me $100, I'll show up on Raw.
I'll show up on Raw for $100. I'll go through a table for 20.
Honestly, I'd go for a table for free.
Yeah, I know. I was just about to say
you give me a handshake and a Snickers bar, and I'll do anything.
I mean, really, if they were like, "Hey, show up on Raw, and somebody's gonna put you through a table," I'd be like, "All right, fuck it, I'll do it."
I'd be like, "How do you want it done?
You want me to
How many tables do you want?"
Yeah, stack them up. Fuck it, I'll do it. Actually, that is a really weird goal I have. Is I want to at some point in my life be put through a table on a wrestling show. Doesn't have to be anything big. I just want to go through a table.
I can make that happen.
Oh, really?
Maybe. I maybe might be able to make that happen.
If it makes sense from a story perspective and it puts somebody over, I'm all for it.
We'll talk out off camera on that one.
I have zero training.
Hey, if you can fall flat on your back, that's all you need.
I can't do that. I'm real good at that. Anyway.
It's like jumping.
I don't know. Can you think of anything else? Probably. I don't know how long we've been on here. Oh yeah, a little over an hour. I'm racking my brain. If you can think of a gimmick change or a name change in AEW or New Japan that just sucked, leave it in the comments below. Because I know they exist. I know they exist. I just can't think of one.
Another thing is I'm in a room full of nothing but wrestling stuff, and I'm trying to look around to see if something that pops in my head.
How do you feel about Jon Moxley's music changing?
Oh, to Wild Thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or did it change from that?
No, it changed to Wild Thing.
I'm not against it. He was real close with the guy. If I remember right, he was close with him. And
it kind of works with his entrance.
It does, because he's definitely some kind of wild.
Well, and not only that, just the way he makes his entrance, and it's funny because when they first did it, I wasn't a fan, but it's grown on. I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, so something's just kind of mutual. It's kind of grown on me after a while, and I mean, I like it, and it works with his character because I mean, he's definitely wild.
Yeah, I was a big fan when they changed Jurassic Express's music.
Oh God, I love that song. I hear so many people dog on Jurassic Express, but I love the song.
I knew they had a thing when they changed it, and the audience, I was like, oh, that's why they did it, because now everybody's doing it. Makes perfect sense. It's like that was such a good
works
change.
For him.
Well, I'm trying to think, because like Ruby Soho works, Malachi Black works. I don't know about Penta Oscuro, but again, I don't hate it, and I understand why they're doing it because Phoenix is going to be out for. I think Alex Abrahantes is a little bit much sometimes, but it's fun.
Man, I'm really trying to wrap my brain.
I want to dog on AEW, and like, because when Joey Janela first teamed with Sonny Kiss, I was like, oh fuck, and then like by the end of the match, I was like, okay, I can actually see this.
Yeah, it's something that works. And if you want to talk about dogging on AEW, here's my biggest pet peeve. They're supposed to be about all these young kids, bringing all this new talent in. I'm tired of seeing botching or fucking up a spot 6 and 7 times a show. It'd be different if it was like once every once in a while. It's getting so repetitive. It's like, if that's the case, just build yourself a developmental system to help get them over a little more.
Well,
Because
they kind of are, and I actually like their formula, but I think so. I think AEW's biggest problem is when they first started, there wasn't a lot of major talent that was available, and now there is, because now they've got the CM Punks, the Bryan Danielsons, the John Moxleys, they've got the Sting, they've got, and like you're talking about that, but then at the same time you've got guys like Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin who do all these crazy things, but they're fucking amazing at it.
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of new guys and a lot of guys that came from the indies and didn't really have the whatever that word is. I'm having a seizure moment. And they didn't have all that training like that, other than like what they trained through the indies. And some of them are doing good with it, but like there's other ones that are just completely missing a big boot. Or they go up to the top rope and they've done the move 100 times and they don't meet or slip off.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And it's just like, you know, and going back to, you know, what JR said, like CM Punk and Dustin Rhodes had a wrestling match and the crowd was eating it up. Now, a little bit of that is because it's Punk and Goldust, but not Goldust, sorry, Dustin. He's not Goldust no more. But like I've seen matches on even Dark between two, I say nobodies, not disparagingly, but and they've been good. Like the first time now, and I know Red Velvet is guilty of missing some spots here and there, but the first time I saw her wrestle, I was like, okay, there's something here. It might be a little rough, but there's something here. It's entertaining. And then she missed a moonsault completely. Like I guess what I would like to see. I guess what I would like to see is like, and Punk does this all the time. Like if somebody messes up a spot, that like my biggest pet, we'll have to do this whole episode one time, is the wrestling spots that piss us off. But like my biggest pet peeve, and I blame Jim Cornette for this because I didn't notice as much until he explained it, and now I see it every fucking time. Is like when somebody does a big dive off the top rope, and if they're doing it to a group of people, they can cover it because the people are involved in something and somebody does a dive or whatever. But when it's just one person out there and they stand there and catch them, it's like, just fucking move.
Samoa Joe does it.
Yeah, exactly. And Punk did it to Darby.
You see him dive and you're just like, oh, step side to the left.
Yeah, now I've seen it done sometimes where it's really good, but like they'll throw somebody out of the ring and they're dazed or whatever and they're not looking that direction and they time it right to where like by the time they turn around, the only thing they could do is like try to soften the blow. You know what I mean? But it's like I can't remember who the match was and I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but somebody went to the top rope and it took them a while to get there and then they almost lost their balance while they were on the top rope and then the person on the outside of the ring is just fucking standing there. Drop the spot. Don't do it because it looks phony.
Oh, goodness. Or another blown spot is remember when I don't remember what he's now, but his name was Evan Bourne in WWE.
Matt Sydal.
And Matt Sydal. He came. What was that? The Battle Royal or the Casino Battle Royal. He debuts, does a Casino Battle Royal, and goes up for the shooting star and completely misses it. The first thing he does. Like, you've done it 100 times.
Well, and it's going to happen because Matt Sydal is really, really good. It's going to happen, but I guess when that does happen, it's like, I guess the best way I would describe it is like if you're in a match and they make no contact at all, just don't act like they made contact. Just be like, oh shit, that was lucky.
Yeah.
Like they missed. And then you can improvise a thing or two and then like you can make it work. And I get why they don't do that in WWE because they'll probably get their asses chewed out, but AEW gives people a lot more freedom. And like, nobody's going to get mad at CM Punk if somebody misses a shooting star press, doesn't hit him, and he acts like it didn't hit him. Nobody's going to get mad at Bryan Danielson, you know. Well, I can't think of any in AEW. I probably will later on tonight, but we're pushing on an hour and a half, so let's wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah, let's send her home.
Once again, thank you for joining us for another episode of another episode of the Down the Middle podcast. Even with the very, very sad passing of Ben, this show will continue to go on. I know that's what he would have wanted. So we shall.
Exactly what he would want.
Yep. So we shall continue bringing you your. I forget where I'm at now. Your 7th favorite wrestling podcast, and hopefully we're climbing up into the ranks. As always, please like, share, and subscribe the videos and the clips that you watch because it helps the channel grow. Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. Tell your friends' mothers. Tell your friend's sister. Tell their dogs even. Tell random passersby on the street about the podcast. If they don't run away from you or try to hit you, then they might just watch.
Hey, write it down on a piece of paper and hand it to the hobo next door.
Exactly. People hand out Bibles, just hand out web addresses. And tell them that the Lord compels them to watch this show. And if you'd rather not watch the show, if you prefer to just listen to it, you can, because we've made it convenient for you. You can catch this show, every new episode and every past episode, not only archived on YouTube for your convenience, but you can also find them on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Anchor. I'm forgetting a big one because I'm fucking tired. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Now, and a couple of other small ones that nobody fucking listens to, so why bother mentioning them? But they're all listed on the anchor.fm page, and if you would like to support the podcast directly, you can donate. You do not have to, but you can donate. You can contribute funds directly to the podcast if you so choose. It would be greatly appreciated. Or if you'd like something for your money, you can check out the official merchandise store down below. There is a link in the description. It has all of your Down the Middle merch, as well as your Average Intelligence podcasts and Arete Media merchandise, as well as Ben's favorite catchphrase on a t-shirt. It's all a work. He popped so hard when I made that shirt.
I need to get me a shirt now.
Well, we'll
get me one now.
We'll get you one. But thank you once again for enjoying it, and don't forget to check out the Benji Memorial podcast on Tuesday. If you would like to join us for that, it would be greatly appreciated. We're just going to be reminiscing, talking about what a great, great fellow he was, and give him a proper podcast send-off.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have anything else. Have you got any final thoughts?
I don't have any.
Cool. Well, we'll get off of here. Everyone, have a good night, blessed day, fantastic week.